Okay, now this is part 3, and I've talked about in the past. I've talked about foreboding joy, and I've talked about the other shield of perfectionism. Now there are others. These are the 3 big ones that Brene Brown talks about, and the things that I think are pertinent to what we're working with now. I once again recommend you go back to BreneBrown.com and order the CD series on the power of vulnerability. It's life-changing. It's amazing work. I highly recommend it. The third shield that's talked about there is numbing. Now that's something we're all aware of. It doesn't matter what kind of substance you take, you're taking it to numb. Anything from sugars all the way through to hard drugs and alcohol. Or there are behaviors that are numbing behaviors. I mean, we can spend our time with a lot of religious activity, and that can be numbing. We can give ourselves and lose ourselves in working at the church or doing kind of things like that, or we're just plain working. Working incredible hours can be numbing. I mean, I've seen people do. Now, running is healthy and good for you. I don't see there's anything wrong with that particularly, unless you're using that behavior to numb out and not feel anything anywhere. So numbing is another big shield that we do, and we've got a problem. Now, does everybody out there have a problem with it? I don't know. But never before in the history of mankind have we been more numbed out, in debt, and medicated group of people in history. I mean, we're major numbers. And if it's not with some computer game, or if it's not with pornography, if it's not with alcohol, if it's not with drugs or work or church or something, we're numbing. We're avoiding behavior. We're foreboding joy. We're avoiding joy. And so numbing is a big deal. Now, numbing is any behavior or substance that distracts, medicates, isolates, or otherwise interferes with vulnerability, with me showing up, with me being present mentally, emotionally, spiritually in any relationship, any significant relationship. Now, I can't be in all relationships, but if any of these behaviors, I don't care how righteous you might think they are, or how valuable they may seem, or self-important they may be, if I'm avoiding vulnerability, if I'm not showing up and I'm not being present with significant people in my life, then I'm numbing. I'm avoiding. Now, there's not a 12-step recovery program for everybody. I know I went to Al-Anon for years and years, 17 years. Now, for me, that was a place. I mean, I came in with one situation that I was working on, and I needed to be there. I was crazier than a bed bug. I needed to be sitting in that chair week in and week out. And while I was working on some of my codependency or working on my codependency and so forth, there were other process addictions and substance addictions that I had in my life that over time I kept going back to this group and working with and dealing with, because I had all kinds of substance addictions. If it's not nicotine, it's food. If it's not food, it's work. If it's not work, it's something. I'm constantly wanting to move towards medicating and numbing. And so bottom line, there are 12-step groups out there. I recommend some of them to you. If you're not already going to SA, then there, or SAA, or there's the Samson and the Pirate Monks, or there's Alcoholics Anonymous, or there's Al-Anon, or Adult Children of Alcoholics, or Codependents Anonymous, or NA's Narcotics Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, Compulsive Workers Anonymous. If there's not a group for that, there needs to be one. I certainly could have been a part of that group. Recovering Religious Addicts, sign me up for that group. I could have been there. There's also Celebrate Recovery. There are a lot of groups out there that do a lot of good work around 12 steps. I think that for a lot of times, you don't have to go in and say, I'm working on a compulsive workaholics. I'm not a compulsive worker. Bottom line is I need to be here. You'd probably trace a lot of your stuff back to your codependency and adult child of an alcoholic. Now, 12 steps are out there for a lot of people. You may not find one that fits just you. I went into a group and used it for a multitude of things in my life that I needed. Today, I work the steps on a regular basis. I have community of recovering brothers in my life. I'm accountable and connect daily because I know I have a proclivity for numbing. And not just some of you are in here, you're dealing with you're going to AA, or you're going to NA, or you're going to OA, or SA. But bottom line, let me share this with you. One of the most important things that you got to realize is that you're going, as you work your recovery and you sober up, you're going to realize that you also avoid leaning into joy, or that whole thing, or vulnerability, leaning into vulnerability, by doing a lot of other things. So I encourage you to balance your life out and look at that. Is that, what am I numbing from? And why am I trying to numb? And how do I stop? And I think that it's the community that you get into that helps you work that out so that you're not numbing. Now, I know this is a short one, but I think that we all have talked about the brain chemistry. You've gone over that. We've covered that already. Here's another one that we're talking about here, that we numb. And you can numb with fantasy. I can be anywhere else with fantasy and numb with it, and the neurochemistry is cranking, and I'm numbing. And I don't have to do a thing. I just encourage you to take an inventory of your own life, and maybe there's a steps 1, 2, and 3 you need to take on other areas of your numbing. Thank you. Have a good day.